Welcome, welcome. It is Tuesday night, so you're going to be here watching the Horror Syndicate Discourse with me, with Nate, with Seth, and Jared. And tonight, we're talking about George Romero's immortal classic, Night of the Living Dead. We're going to talk about Night of the Living Dead, 1968, and a little bit about 1990, because it's damn near equally as good as the original, in my opinion. It's better. Anyway, tonight, of course, we've got Jared. Is that how you wear a mask? You gotta pull it over your nose, bud. There we go. Okay. I see that all day at work. People wearing that shit under your nose. Like, wrong.
Fail.
Yeah. Jared, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Good. I'm actually in a really good mood. Looking forward to the episode tonight, guys.
Fantastic. All right, that's great. That's great. Keep that energy going. I want to match that energy. Seth, how we doing tonight, buddy?
I'm all right.
I have a question. Is it cool for you or you just wear the beanie for fun?
It wasn't bad today, but I've been wearing it all day long. Indigo,
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
Indigo.
Wearing it all day long, and my hair is just messed up, so I'm not taking it off.
Yeah,
I think he's trying to tell you that you found a six-figured man in there. I think.
And we've got Nate with us, of course. So Nathan
Hey.
Thomas Miller, how we doing? You look very happy.
I'm good. Could talk about a great classic movie. A little tired, but
Yeah. So that's gonna strangle a dog tonight. And all right, looks like we've got some people watching. So let's say hello to Luke Hardiman, who's always with us. Hello, Sean Stiff. Yeah, who's coming here to get us? That's a great question. Nico loves Night of the Living Dead. Bill Hinsman. He made a movie a couple years ago. Did you guys ever see it? I think it's, what is it called? He was being the same character. It came out in the mid '80s. Really Flesh Eater. Yeah, there we go. I love it, but it's terrible. It's like really, really bad. My beard is bad. Right, time to shave this fucking thing off. Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. I need to get a copy of it on DVD or something like that. Alex is here. Hey.
If you bought that old Zombie 4-pack, it should have been in with it with Zombie like 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah. Well, I know I need to get that. Nate's
one?
got it. Yep, that's
Yep.
it. I did not. I never saw that one in the wild, as they say. And this is directed towards Alex, of course. He doesn't care about us. He's here for Alex only. Flesh Eaters was awesome, Brian. Come on. The shit you watch. I had a beard. I shaved it off. So anyway, we're going to talk about Night of the Living Dead, a fantastic movie. 53 years old this year in October, I believe. And it still holds up. Am I wrong in saying that?
Mm-mm.
No, you're not wrong.
No, I don't think so. I mean, social commentary, everything about it still holds up. I wonder if George Romero, I'd love to talk to him, but he's no longer with us. What a sad day that was. But I wonder if he would have known 50 years later if this movie would have had the same impact it was having back in the 60s as it did. Scott Montgomery ringing in with some Flesh Eater. Lots of boobs in that movie, just saying. He knows it. What do you guys think? Do you think he expected any kind of Jared was just talking about that off screen. Do you think he would have
I don't think any of them expected that.
Not at the time, no.
No, he was just making a movie, right? That spawned how many sequels? 4, like actual sequels. They're not really sequels. You guys consider Dawn of the Dead a sequel, or is it just another movie?
I consider it thematically a sequel. It's not your standard sequel where it picks up with the same characters or anything, but it progresses. It's in the same world, I think.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about his first 4 films. I feel that they can't be connected, because of rights issues, but I think
Right.
they are connected thematically and when he tells these stories.
So they kind of exist in the same world. So like Dawn of the Dead is taking place in, oh God, what's the name of that town? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. I know the name, but for some reason,
Monroeville.
Monroeville. Thank you. So that's
Monroeville.
taking place there. Yeah, I mean, it's cool because they're all isolated in different places. I mean, I think Day of the Dead takes place in Miami, right? I know they go through Miami, but it's got to be in that area, isn't it?
Yeah, it's down in Florida.
But it was filmed in the same area, of course. And then Pittsburgh and the mines in Pittsburgh, I believe, or near Pittsburgh. And then Land of the Dead is I think Milwaukee or something like that. Anyway, so first impressions. When was the first time you got to see Night of the Living Dead? And were you like me and saw the remake first, or did you dive headfirst into the black and white beauty that is the 1968 version? Nate, let's go with you. Let's start with you.
I believe I saw the original first, probably before the remake came out. I don't have a story for when I first saw it. It was just one of those. When you jump into horror, there's those titles that you have to start with or find, seek out. And Night of the Living Dead was just one of those staples, like Texas Chainsaw or The Exorcist or Rosemary's Baby or whatever. Oh, this is one I've got to see, and probably saw it. One of those cheap packs with because it was public domain, so you can get it anywhere for cheap, and it was just one of those. Night of the Living Dead is just one of those great. We've seen a lot of movies like it. As far as the siege movie, people hold up in a place where something's trying to get in, but this is almost like kind of the I guess the birth of that theme or that setup plot. And it still holds up. It's still terrifying. It's still there's something very simple and terrifying about being in this farmhouse where something's trying to get in to kill you, and you have to keep it out. And then the infighting that happens with humanity and self-preservation and conflicts and who's making the right choice, who should we listen to, comes into play. That's kind of the bread and butter of the zombie film. And so Night was probably the first zombie movie I saw. Oh, well, I take it back. Return of the Living Dead was my first one I saw. But the simplicity of this one compared to Return of the Living Dead. Return of the Living Dead is a bigger movie, bigger things going on, more characters. But this whole hold up in a space with a group of strangers. It was just it always makes for a good movie. Anytime I see something like Maximum Overdrive or whatever, anytime someone uses that plot line,
probably Assault on Precinct 13. I'm sure, right?
Assault, Rio Bravo, Assault on Precinct 13, all those type of movies. They're just these kind of. I think that you immediately feel like you're part of it because you're in there with them.
Yeah.
And this is an immersion, and Night of the Living Dead will always work because even though it's 1968, it's black and white, it doesn't pull any punches because it was right before the whole rating system came in. So they were able to get away with some things that I don't think audiences even were familiar with yet or had seen yet. When you think about what movies were out prior to 1968 and the level of violence and seeing people being eaten and nudity, nude people walking around, all these things were in just this, like, in real time as well. It's in real time, and that's always a fun when you're not jumping around, skipping, so that you feel like you're going through this with them. You start with this barber character, and then just bam out the gate, shit hits the fan. I mean, and it's unrelenting the whole time.
Yeah, and I love the opening. The opening is just, it's so iconic. Going to the cemetery, the brother and sister arguing, and then he's just teasing her, and then he's actually whatever he says actually happens. What a jerk, Johnny. Seth, what about you, man? What are your favorite first moments? Do you remember seeing the movie? First impressions?
I don't really remember when I saw it. I know that my dad talked a lot about it. He talked a lot about his experience seeing it and how it really scared people when it came out back in the day, especially when they saw it at the drive-in and they were heading home and, you see someone kind of stumbling around on the street, I don't remember exactly when I saw it for the first time, but I fell in love with it. It's my second favorite horror movie of all time, and it's my favorite of the Romero zombie movie. What's that?
You said they're on werewolves.
Not quite. But there's something about the movie. There's a simplicity to it. I love the way it's shot. I love the score. I mean, I look at this movie and I can't really tell that it was really just a group of friends getting together on the weekends to shoot a movie. Yeah. It just doesn't seem like that to me. It seems like it was a legit production.
I feel like you get a little bit of both, and too, because it's a good production,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I've seen something before my eyes. Sorry. Yeah, I think it does look like it does hit, because there are certain scenes that I do think that are very low budget looking, but at the same time, it's a really good production. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, while they were while they had made a movie before, they had made all those commercials, and they learned the process. They learned to. I mean, that's what a lot. One of the best things filmmakers could do is to make basically like what the equivalent is. I mean, you can do commercials now, but a lot of people come from music videos nowadays, and then you got short film. If you do short film, you could try all these new things out and try all these new techniques, figure out how to manage a set and how to come up with shots and blocking and editing, learning all these little things. So when he went into Night of the Living Dead, even though it was his first movie, he had the talent and the knowledge enough that he was able to rise above his budgetary constraints and lack of feature filmmaking experience. And it still shows that while they were amateur, they weren't amateur. They were a crew that knew each other and trusted each other and had figured out things before they got there.
But also, he got great performances out of his actors. Yeah, by the way, yes, the Criterion said this is worth it 100%. Get it. It's cleaned up. It's gorgeous. It sounds better than it ever has. It looks better. Go ahead, Seth. Tell them.
Beautiful restoration.
Yeah.
You ask how much more cleaned up can you get from the DVD? Just trust us. It fucking is. It's worth the purchase.
Damn near looks like it was filmed in black and white not long ago. It looks that good to me. I love it. It's absolutely the best edition out there. And to answer your question before, I don't think any of us got the Dawn of the Dead set. Did any of you get the recent Dawn of the Dead Blu-ray from Germany, I think?
There's a couple of them that were in 4K that came out from
Yeah, I know Mike Lombardo did from the old show. Anyway, yeah. Jared, how about you? What are drive-ins? Scott Montgomery, come on. You know what a drive-in is?
We were kind of discussing.
Yes, buy it. Absolutely. Go ahead.
I was kind of bringing it up before we got on air. I bought it on VHS before I was in high school. Actually, it might have been right around because it would have been the 40th, or no, they would have been the 30th anniversary. So it would have been 1998. It was on VHS, and it had some extra scenes that were filmed. And like I think we were talking, Nate, it might have been Bill Hinsman that did that. I'm not totally sure, but that was the first version I had.
That was mentioned earlier by one of our followers here.
And I was a freshman in high school, I think, and I wore that VHS out.
This right here is what the thoughts on the John Russo extra scenes inserted. Yeah. Hinsman made Flesh Eaters, and that's the superb film.
So that was Russo who was a part of
the
extra scenes.
Yeah. We know.
I didn't think it was necessary. Like,
Did it really
knowing the movie for what it is?
Where did they insert that shot? Because the movie basically takes place in 2 locations.
They inserted it at the beginning and towards the end. It was a priest that was discussing the dilemma that was going on. And then at the end of the movie, you figure out he got bit. And then he had not turned, but he has this little dog named Mushu. So if he does turn, that will be the first thing that he attacks.
Now, do you think that they took the name Mushu and put it in Mulan from... No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I know. I remember seeing that, but I don't remember those scenes. So in the beginning, their priest is telling you what's happening. I mean,
he's part of the first burial before before Barbara and Johnny go up to the cemetery. Supposedly, they were burying the Bill Hinsman zombie.
And that's why he wasn't all dirty and because he was a fresh corpse.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like part of the greatness of it is being unaware of what's about to happen. Mm-hmm. And if you're preparing us with that, it's just, it kind of ruins
takes
that.
Out of it a little bit.
Yeah. It's just, explaining too much. Like in addition, like if you're going to add something, you shouldn't add exposition or that type of thing. Like we're going to embellish on what's happening or to establish why this is happening.
Were they just added to make it longer?
It's probably just added to do something.
To make more money.
But there's no reason to. It's not about Bill Hinsman's zombie or whatever. It's about Barbara and Ben and Cooper. And so to do something extra without those characters, it would be like, hey, we're in Star Wars. Let's open it up with, this stormtrooper's backstory before we get to, Tatooine. Like, why? Yeah. It's like it has nothing to do with the story of this movie.
I don't think it could be because of more money, because they couldn't make any money off this, right? So,
not at the time when they did it. No.
Here we go. It was added to hold the copyright. They fucked up the original copyright. Yeah. By the way, the whole shirt thing, my Night of the Living Dead shirt is too small for me. It's one of those cheap Walmart shirts, and it just doesn't fit. Seth, are you wearing it? What are you wearing?
No, I think he's confusing me with Nate.
Nate has a bitch
today.
I was gonna say I think I wore my Night of the Living Dead shirt last episode, so mine's in the closet.
We'll have to check the tape.
I had one that I used to have one. It was a black one that had the little girl on it, Cooper's daughter, and on the back it said they're coming to get you, Barbara, in really big font going all the way down. It was really cool, but I just got worn down.
That's what happened to mine. Mine was from Walmart. Like 4 or 5 years ago. It was like, Nate, can I see yours? Is it? Yeah, it's kind of like that, but
it's a fright rag shirt. Yeah.
It's similar to that, but not as cool looking. But anyway, yeah, I just can't wear it anymore. It's too small. I bought a size too small just because I needed to get one. Anyway, I'll fix that eventually. That'd be cool to have this as a shirt. So anyway, let's get into. Oh, I didn't get to tell my story. I saw the remake first. I saw the 1990 movie. I guess it hit HBO in 91 at some point. And I remember I was living in a trailer, and I was sitting by the window, and this came on. I'm like, oh, you remember the old school TV thing where they'd have the scrolling thing to find out what's coming on at the video guide or whatever. Yeah. So I saw Night of the Living Dead was coming on. I was like, oh, cool. This is, like Nate said, one of those ones you got to see. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm going to watch this. My mom and they all went out bowling. And I watched Night of the Living Dead. I was like, wow, this doesn't look as old as everybody says it is. And I'm watching it and just loving it. I'm like, that's Candyman. Well, it was after 92 then, because I knew Tony Todd from Candyman. I was like, Candyman's in this. There's no way this is this old. The best part, though, is it creeped me out so much that I kept looking out the window. And I was on like a cross street, so there I could see straight down the street, and there was blackness down the street. You couldn't see anything, so it creeped me out. I was like 12 years old, and I kept thinking, are they out there? So anyway, my mom said, no, this is not the right one, because my mom was a horror expert. Because she came in right at the end. She's like, "What are you watching?" I was like, "Night of the Living Dead," and she saw the scene where Ben is a zombie. She's like, "What the hell is this?" So she wasn't very happy about that. So I had a baseball tournament that Saturday, and there was a dirt mall, flea market, like near the fields. And my mom's like, "Hey, let's go see if we can find a copy of Night of the Living Dead, the original." I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." So in between games, I had a doubleheader that day. We went over to the dirt mall, found a copy of Night of the Living Dead, went in and popped it in after we won both games. It was awesome. Yeah, and then it was summer '93. Then there was a big flood right after that. It rained for like 2 weeks straight, and it flooded like the whole area. So anyway, yeah, I saw the remake first, and I kind of prefer the remake. And I know that a lot of people wouldn't like that. Brian said something about killing birds. Without Night of the Living Dead, there will be no Zombie 5 killing birds. He's probably right.
You're not totally wrong.
No, I mean, there's a lot of movies that happen because of Night of the Living Dead. Like I watched one the other night because it was inspired from that movie, which is Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
Patricia Tallman.
Patricia Tallman. Yeah, she was fantastic. Scott Montgomery did it. So anyway, let's get into the movie. Where do you guys want to start? What do you want to start with? Nate, you got any ideas on where you want to start?
I don't know. I mean, just from the beginning. I mean, I guess we could talk about the cast and characters, and we just brought up Tallman, so we could talk about that difference of direction with Barbara between the two films.
I was actually thinking about that would be a kind of a fun thing, like compare and contrast the two different characters, original versus remake.
Yeah, I think I think that's the only one that really is different. I think. I mean, other than
the ending, it's a little different, but
I mean, because Dwayne Jones, I think Tony Todd was perfect casting in that role. But Barbara, she became a nutcase and kind of like crazy.
Phoned out.
Yeah, I mean, talk about shocked. I mean, she was, I don't want to say worthless, but she kind of was, And I like one scene that sticks out for me in the original movie was when I think it's Cooper's wife comes upstairs and says, "What time is it?" And they're like, "It's 10 till 3." And Barbara's like, "It's not 3 yet. It's getting close," or something like that. I'm like, "Holy shit," And then on the other hand, you have Patricia Tallman who adapts to the situation, and becomes fucking Rambo. Is he dead? Is he dead?
I'm glad that we have both. Myself. Go ahead, Seth. How about you?
So I was going to say, like Nate said, I'm glad we have both. I think I prefer, I prefer the original movie, but I prefer Patricia Tallman's Barbara, like that take on the character. At the same time, though, the original Barbara doesn't bother me because I felt like she represented someone who would go into shock. There's plenty of people who, if this really happened, because everyone reacts differently. And I would imagine there are some people who just kind of completely shut down like that. Wouldn't be able to process what they're witnessing. She's on her way with her brother to put a wreath on her father's grave, and then she's attacked. She sees Johnny get attacked. She goes to the farmhouse. She sees dead bodies upstairs. She's just
chocolate syrup. Oh my god!
She's suddenly thrust into this world, and she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know how to respond to it. And at the same time, she maybe feels a little bit of guilt for leaving Johnny behind. There's that uncertainty with her too, where she doesn't know if Johnny is alive or dead. And they, in the remake, they made it more obvious that Johnny died. The way that his head hit the tombstone.
Backwards.
We
got to go out and get him.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I prefer the Patricia Tallman version of Barbara. I like that, where they toughened her up, they gave her a shotgun, and she was a little bit more with it. She snapped out of it after a while, but at the same time, the original does not bother me at all because I think it was almost like a real representation of a real person.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw on the Criterion version, they said that originally Barbara was not supposed to be that way in the original movie, but they liked what Judith was doing, that they kind of went that way. And I, like Seth said, I think she represents the person who is in shock and just shuts down. And like, it's not that I don't think it's to say that she's useless. I mean, yes, she isn't doing anything to help, but
Yeah.
she's also a reason why they have to stay there, because she's not in a state to just run off. But I think Judith does a great job at playing it. She definitely feels like someone who is completely just, I mean, gone. Like, just the random thoughts, the things she says, like, this young woman is really fucked up by what's happened to her, and you can tell it. And I think they handle it really well, and I enjoy that. And I also feel like her version of Barbara feels younger than Tallman's version of she feels like a young girl. And so this is someone
more naive, for sure.
Yeah, just very naive and very. I don't see her being that way. Like Tallman was. Tallman felt like an older character. When we meet her, she's very, bookwormy, kind of school teacher, marm kind of thing, where the way she's dressed, the way she looks. So we see that arc of her, but I do like what Judith does in the original. I do like when she has those moments where she's just like, when she does speak, it's like, what, like this, and it's like the way Dwayne reacts to her, what she's saying, it just adds to it. Like, he's trying to protect this woman, and he takes that responsibility towards her, because she is not in any situation to take care of herself.
No, not at all.
And he becomes a guardian almost to her, and fails her, really. I mean, he does this ultimately. That's what's really interesting about of the story, is that while we're on Ben's side, Ben doesn't always really make the best choices, and is actually kind of wrong in the whole thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, technically Cooper was right, because Ben proved that by being down in the basement, and he survived the entire night until,
So all these little things, even in the remake where Patricia's like, they're so slow, we could just walk on past them. Mm-hmm. They probably would have been better off if they had left the house. Yeah. They just hold themselves up where they could get surrounded. And also another thing that Ben is doing that Cooper was right about is all the noise that they're making, boarding up everything that Cooper wouldn't have been doing.
No,
drew them out there.
Attracting to the house.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing about being in a zombie apocalypse. And I mean, they didn't know for sure, but they're attracted to sound. Yeah. Like any wild animal, for the most part, would be attracted or scared by sound, and they're making tons of it. Cooper was right in some parts, but
even in the remake, I don't remember if they did it in the original, but in that remake where the older lady the zombie woman walks out, you can hear the hammering, and she turns around and goes towards the house. Like, there's a show, like, that's what's drawing them all there. It's all this noise they're making. Cooper is right.
So that's the question: is Tallman the only main reason, or is there anything else about the remake that you love? I like the cast more. I'll be honest. I love Tony Todd in the role. I mean, Dwayne made it his own role. I mean, he made
Dwayne's great, but I think Tony's better than
Tony Todd is. He acted his ass off in that role, and part of, I don't know if read anything about it or heard him talk about his respect for Dwayne. He wanted to do it for Dwayne Jones.
And I disagreed. Like, Dwayne made that role.
He did.
In
Dwayne's great.
For being a lead African-American actor, like, he made that character, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I like him in it. I think he is.
And that's not taking anything away from Tony Todd. He did a fucking amazing job.
I think it's one of the best things I've seen Tony do. And people always go back Candyman. This is better than Candyman. His performance is real. Everything about it is better than Candyman. Dwayne is great, but one thing I noticed watching it this time, trying to be, knowing we were going to bring up all these things and who's better and what's better, all this stuff, was the thing I noticed about Dwayne is Dwayne and the rest of the cast have a very theater style.
Yeah,
of course, it was a different time, but almost everything that Dwayne says is at a projection, like a theater, like he's on stage. It's very loud when he performs in that movie. Whereas if they're all in the house, they're all standing feet away from each other, and almost everything is amplified because he probably came from theater. It was probably where and that's one of the things you run into with film and theaters. Like, a lot of theater actors it's hard for them to bring that down So he has this balance where he feels real. He does feel real, but a lot of times he's almost projecting too much. Of course, again, it was a time, but this is also after acting had changed as well. There are movies in 1968 that don't feel that way. That feel
they probably didn't have the best mics and stuff too. So
yeah, because some of it's echoey.
Probably have to speak up a little bit.
Yeah, but that's part of the filmmaking of the time. But I was also going to say I like Tom Towles better as Cooper.
I was just going to say that
he was great. Yes. But the thing is, would they be as great if they didn't have the other performances to go off of? That's the other kind of question. You know, like I said, Tony Todd kind of like upped his game, I think, a little bit because of what Dwayne brought to the role. I mean, he's even said that, you know, and so I wonder if they were playing them fresh, if they'd be as good. I mean, even Bill Moseley's small role, like he was excellent as Johnny, I thought. I mean, some people might disagree, and that's fine. But you know, I don't know. I thought Tom Towles was great. Patricia Tallman, they're very like close to even for me with the original. I think the original being a little bit lower is just because I saw the prequel or the remake first.
You know, when it comes to Johnny, I feel that Russ
Strainer, yes.
I think Russ feels like his dialogue and his performance is more natural than Bill. Feels like he's putting on a Bill Moseley performance.
Well, yeah, because he sounds like Chop Top. Oh, mother, no! That whole scene, he sounds just like Chop Top.
It's very campy compared to what Russ did. Even though Russ is hamming it up, I had that coming to get you, Barbara, and all that. There's still a very. It feels more real to me. His delivery and his performance.
I agree with this comment, by the way. Hot take: remake Cooper is more likable in an odd way. I kind of, but there's that whole scene where he's when they go out to get the gas.
They're both fucking dicks.
Him alone with Barbara. That scene is uncomfortable to watch, in my opinion. He's being such a prick, and then he tries to force the gun away from her, and I don't know. Cooper's not likable, in my opinion. Period. But
well, I thought about that. That's something I wanted to get into on Cooper because I had that thought watching the remake today. All right, he's presented as the bad guy, as the heavier or the guy we don't like.
The divisive.
But is he really bad, or is he just someone trying to protect his family? I mean, that's the thing. Like, if my daughter and my wife were there, and it's my job to take care of. My daughter is hurt; she's sick, and I am there to take care of her. And I wholeheartedly believe that this is dangerous, and you all are making all this fucking noise, and you're going to drag people to my wife, to my kid, and you're causing all of this danger. You're amplifying it, which they are. He was right. Is he really a bad guy, or are we just saying that because he's doing things because we've been presented that Ben and Barbara are our heroes and are the people we're identifying with? But as a father, how would you react if your kids were in that basement and these people were making all this noise? And that's why he goes up in the first place. They're making all this fucking noise. Like, we were safe down here, and all of a sudden these people are putting us in danger, putting my family in danger. Would I do what he does? I might, especially if the guy's got a gun and ordering me around and telling me what I'm going to do and what we're going to do. Yeah, I might want to get that gun from that fucker. You know, I may want to do what he does. I may want to get that radio or get TV and see what's going on. Is he a bad guy? I don't think so. I don't think anybody in there is black and white, bad guy, good guy.
Well, no, I mean, they're just regular people first and foremost. Yeah. And you're right. I agree. Go ahead, Seth.
Yeah, I know you want to say something.
Yeah.
Go for it. I mean, he was antagonistic in a certain way, but it's, you know, it's not like
Ben was being antagonistic too.
Yeah.
It was a back and forth. But yeah, go ahead.
It's not like he was your standard villain who had this big plot. He wasn't really doing evil things. You know, there was the one part where I think he didn't open the door or something like that. But
scared,
for
you know.
the most part, he's one
mostly
of those
fear. Yeah.
He's one of those. He's one of those antagonists who believes he's right.
Right.
You know, he believes what he's doing is right. He believes that, you know,
he was. That's
right. Well, exactly. I mean, but he's ultimately protecting his family.
Yeah.
I think they made him. I mean, I know that you agree with the comment about Cooper being more likable in the remake. I kind of disagree with that.
But
Because I kind of feel like Cooper was a little bit more antagonistic in the remake.
Mm.
You know, both.
Yeah.
I love the remake too. Don't get me wrong. Like the remake really like elevated the intensity between Ben and Cooper, and it made them a little bit more extreme. I think they acted a little bit more extreme than they did in the original. Whereas in the original, I could see it as it's just an inner conflict within this small group inside this house. Everyone thinks they're doing the right thing, and no one wants to work together because that's the human race. We're a pile of shit, and that's that's where that comes from.
Yeah.
And like I said, even like going to help or not helping or apprehensive about going to help Ben when he's like coming trying to get in, it's like he also has to think, if I risk my life and die, then I'm not there to take care of my family. My job is to be there. So should I risk myself for this stranger or stay here and where I know I'm not in danger, therefore they're not in danger? It's this really cool moral. Like there's a really great movie. I don't know if anyone saw it. It makes me think of this now. There's a movie called Right at Your Door that came out about 15 years ago with Roy Cochran. And it was an independent film. A lot of people didn't see it. And it's really fucking good. And it's basically Roy Cochran is a guy who is an artist. He works from home. He lives in L.A. His wife works downtown. And while his wife is down there, like, I don't know, around noon or so, there are dirty bombs blown up in downtown Los Angeles. And they're quarantining everything. And they're telling everybody to stay in their house, quarantine, lock up your doors, lock up your windows. And there's a guy who's working on a house, a Hispanic guy working next door, who comes knocking on his door, and he takes him in. He goes, "Hey, man, get in here. It's not safe." He tries to get downtown. The cops got it all marked. He couldn't get downtown to get his wife. So he goes back home. He boards up with this guy, and they're closing up everything, closing all the crevices and everything, taping up. And then his wife shows up, and she's sick. She's coughing. The shit's gotten there, and he has this moral dilemma: do I open the door and let my wife in, who's begging me to come in, putting this man who I've taken in to protect or help at risk? Like, if it's just me, I'll take her in. But I've got this guy here with me who is innocent and, who's helped me do this. So it's a really cool movie. And that's kind of the kind of thing you're playing there is like, how do I react to that? Maybe so to people just point fingers, say Cooper's obviously the bad guy. He's, like you said, he's got his reasons. And he turns out to be in many ways correct.
Well, that's the question though. Like if in this movie, if you were in the basement or whatever, would you stay? Like his wife Helen comes up to help and says, "No, we need to help them." What would you do in that situation? Because I mean, Ben gives them you either stay up here and help or you go back down there and hide. What would you do in that situation? You being you, who you are right this minute. Don't worry, no kids, no family, no nothing. It's just you by yourself.
I would say if I believe that we're safer down there, I'm saying, no, we're going back downstairs.
So your
daughter's sick.
With no other way out.
Yeah. To me, in the basement, they're not going to hear us. They're not going to know we're down there. Yeah. Up here, making all this fucking noise and all these lights on and moving around, it's just going to attract. Otherwise, they would just walked on and moved on. And the thing is, that's where they were safe down there until Barbara and Ben showed up making all that noise.
Yeah, and if you think about it, no lights on in the house, no actions going on in the house. They're not going to go to the door. What would they go to the door?
Go there. There's all these houses, all these things they could go. They was just kept on moseying by. But their activity is what drew them there, and that's what's. So Cooper has every right to be fucking angry and
because early on there were only a couple of zombies out, even close to the house, and then it was big. There was people there at one point, right? Well, you had something.
They would have been safe to a point because eventually the daughter would have turned. She would have bit either one or both of them, or taken
probably
one of them like she does. So I mean, either way, I mean, to a certain extent, with the daughter out of the way, yeah, Ben was able to survive down in the basement. But if it was just Cooper and Helen and Tom and Judy, they probably would have been fucked either way because of the kid.
This is another good point, though. Like, no, the family wouldn't have been. This is a good question. We probably, I don't know if we want to talk about, but Ben was shot when he came out of the basement after he went down at the end, right? Mm-hmm. Was he shot because they thought he was a zombie or because he's whack?
100% because he was a zombie.
They thought he was. I think it's because he was a zombie, or they thought he was a zombie.
I've seen arguments for both. That's why I ask.
Yeah,
I think it was because they assumed
that's the amazing thing about Romero's movie. Like he throws so many political things in there. Yeah. Like
absolutely.
Right. Yeah. There was the subtext behind what happened at the end, but ultimately it was because the cleanup crew thought that he was a zombie.
Yes.
Yeah, I would have hid in the attic. I ain't getting up there.
Well, like the whole thing with like when the rescue party came through, most people probably would have ran out and said, "Hey, I'm good." But he was sneaking around trying to see, and just what the sheriff said,
on up there.
Just what the chief says. He goes, "There's another one right there." He says another one. He doesn't mean. Right. He just sees something moving there, and they're not trying to call for us. They're not saying anything. It's a zombie.
Put one right between his eyes.
Yeah, bam. There's another one for the fire. He's not talking about that person. He's talking about that thing that they just shot. And that's what it is. I think, like someone saying that they would have been killed in the basement. I think if those people had come in the house and had been calling out, which I would imagine the search party would, looking for survivors, they would have said, hey, we're down here. We're, I got to see the dog.
Well, they went into the house in the remake, which I like better. But like Sean Stiff's coming with the questions tonight. This must be one of his favorites. Do we think the cleanup crew even cared? I don't think so. I don't think they gave a shit. They just shot whatever that wasn't.
They were having fun, drinking beers and killing things. They were.
I don't think they were enjoying murdering innocent people or living people. I just think it was one of those situations. I think it was just a situation like Halloween 3 where, Ted Hollister gets shot and moving in the bushes. Like it's just we're loaded for bear and we're jumpy and we're going to shoot when we think there's a threat. And they just saw somebody moving in that house, not making any noise, not calling out for help, like most normal people would if they saw the police coming. Of course, again, that goes into the racial thing. Would he call out to a bunch of white rednecks and dogs for help as a black man?
He's not in an area he knows anything about. He's not from the area. I think is implied at something.
With that, going back to that too, I think the subtext was really highlighted by the fact that Dwayne Jones was cast as the lead, and it's very rare, even today, for a movie to kill off your lead in a very cynical type of way. To end your movie in a cynical way. Most movies, especially, in the old times, there's more of the happy ending type, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
if it was made by anyone else, the one survivor would have lived, but it was very. Yeah, and it was very cynical, and it was, on top of the fact that it was Dwayne Jones cast as the lead too, that it really added to that subtext. But I mean, as far as the cleanup crew, I mean, there's, they had a couple of montages of them having fun shooting zombies.
They were out for a hunting exposition.
Right. It wasn't about, just getting the excuse to go shoot whoever. They were specifically targeting zombies. And I think, like Nate said, it was because he was kind of lumbering around inside the house, cautious to go outside. Mm-hmm. Because of that,
right.
Yeah,
I can see that.
The biggest flaw of the remake is Barbara stating the obvious at the end. We're them and they're us. That's a student film line of dialogue. Okay. But yeah, I don't know. So my daughter watched Night of the Living Dead. She's 7, of course, with me the other day for the first time. And she had seen the original and the remake, and knowing what happens to Ben, she's a Tony Todd fan. She loves Candyman. Anyway, she's watching it and she sees it happen. And right between the eyes, you shoot him. She's like, "That's racist." That was her first initial reaction. So I mean, I definitely have seen both sides where it's because they're shooting zombies or whatever, and then the other racism, because they're a bunch of rednecks.
To me, my thing is that at that distance, they couldn't tell what color he was or who he was, or if it was a man or a woman or whatever it is. They just saw movement, no noise, no behavior of a survivor. That must be one of the lumbering dead. Kill it.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry. I don't mean
I was going to read the question. If Ben had said something in the original, would he have survived? That's a good question, but I don't think he would have said anything anyway, based on the look on his face. Go ahead, Seth.
Shit, I actually forgot what I was. Oh, the brilliant thing about the movie is that there is a sort of racial tension between Cooper and Ben, but like it's never actually called out. You know what I mean? It's never, race is never even mentioned in the movie, but there is that tension between Cooper and Ben, and you could read where it is because Cooper doesn't want to take orders from a black man and vice versa. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or just a younger man. Like I'd heard like kind of the movie was also not just about race or anything like that, but also the young generation devouring the old generation, the old white racist, shirt and tie generation of because this is during the hippie culture stuff, and anyone ever heard George or met George was like, hey man, like he was totally like he was part of that new young world, that counterculture that was coming in, that was taking over and that was kind of the 60s, because like people look at like early 60s and it still look like the 50s. Everything felt like that. And then by the time you get to the mid 60s and all that whole movement, that whole change of culture where the young people were taking over. And like I said, like Cooper represents that World War II.
Ben wasn't written as a black person anyway. He was just written in the story.
Yeah, he was just written there. But I mean, the thing is, like Ben and Barbara represent the youth of America, and Cooper represents the nuclear family. Yeah, baby boomer, World War II era.
Well, he's got the family, yeah.
So that's where the conflict is too, and so I mean, there's just all kinds of those things going on in it that you can, and that's why this movie resonates and stays so relevant. Is because we're still dealing with these same fucking things and these same problems and these same divisions and these. And that's why these type of movies like The Mist or whatever, where you get people together, they're going to clash, they're going to divide, they're going to form into factions, you get two alpha males together, they're going to, fight over who is the leader and who's making the right choices and who's what people are going to do.
That's a fair comparison using The Mist.
Yeah.
When you get a group of people together.
It's a great movie too.
That's the interesting part of The Mist, is that what's going on with the people in the store, not so much what's out there.
Although the effects and the monsters we see are really cool. Come on.
Yeah.
The spider little.
But it's really more about what Marcia Gay Harden's character is doing versus what the sane people are doing.
That's one of the things that makes a good zombie movie, in my opinion, or end of the world movie, is what's going on with the people. Not so much the zombies. It's like that was one of the successful things about The Walking Dead when it began. And in the comic, because I was more interested in seeing how the people were clashing. I mean, in the comic, you get these, the Rick's gang, and then you get the governor who's running things differently, and everybody's doing how the world differently. And that's one of the best things about zombie movies is fucking Day of the Dead was the best example of that. I mean, look at what happened when the higher up stopped calling and Rhodes took over.
Anytime you get in post-apocalyptic movies like Mad Max and all that, where you've got, it's back to primal, who's going to eat who, who's going to take the road, Cormac McCarthy's novel, it always works because that's how it is. When you strip away rule and law and consequences, and just everything's about survival and self-preservation, and that's what's really happening in Night of the Living Dead. Is all of a sudden the world is in chaos, and we're back to our primal needs, which is just survival in general.
Top trapped group of people movies. I mean, most zombie movies are the first things that come to mind for me. People being trapped. Dawn of the Dead remake. That's my favorite.
Well, even one of my favorite movies, top 3 movies, is not exactly like that, but it's one of those trapped in a place where you don't trust each other, and it's Reservoir Dogs.
Oh yeah.
Where who's it's like The Thing, who is, and he revisited it in Hateful Eight, where it's like, who is
that was actually going to be my one, was The Thing.
Yeah. So like, who, the paranoia of who is our enemy and who isn't, who's here to do bad. Feast is a good one. Yeah, I mean, those are, they always work. They're always, because it's like I said, Maximum Overdrive earlier, where they're all in that truck stop with just weird shit going on. Even though people talk about how shitty that movie is, there's something fun about it because it's got that plot line. It's got that people trapped together with this outside threat.
Sean, if you haven't seen Feast, it is a fun fucking movie, dude.
It is. It's definitely worth watching.
Clu Gulager as the bartender alone. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so two movies for you to buy. Go buy Feast, it's worth it, and then buy the Night of the Living Dead Criterion.
Don't bother with the second and third Feast. Just
don't say that. I haven't watched those yet. I need to watch those. Scott Montgomery has a question. How did the cemetery zombie with Bill Hinsman, I'm guessing he's talking about, in the original even know where Barbara went? He was probably following the sounds. That's what I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, she was pretty much screaming the whole way, wasn't she?
Yeah.
That loud music we couldn't hear over.
You mean bitching? Yeah. We only have to do this once a year, Johnny. Come on.
Worst year ever.
Yeah, worst.
Yeah.
We remember. I don't.
We should talk about, like, Seth talked about the shots that George Romero does. That's where the remake really oddly tops. I mean, Savini wasn't a director. I mean, this George Romero just had a great eye, and the use of the wide angle lens where he shoots the house. There's some gorgeous shots and framing, and then you bouncing back and forth with the handheld when he could, when there's no dialogue. He went handheld when there was no dialogue needed, when there was no audio needed. But like those wide angle lens shots of the house, and
thank you, Alex.
And then they, with the shadows, like what he did, we did that on the new one, where it's basically you take like a piece of cardboard and you cut shapes into it, just random shapes, and you shine light through it, especially for night scenes, and it creates this really interesting shadows and things in the room. So if you watch Night of the Living Dead, they did that tons of times in there, where there's just all these odd shadows falling across people and the sets. Which is how they accomplish it. They just kind of cut stuff into a cardboard piece, just scrap of cardboard. You do it, you shine light through it, and it just makes it more interesting looking. So Night of the Living Dead is lit like that, and it has this really nice. I'm glad it's in black and white. I do prefer the black and white. It's just, there's something about it that's just gorgeous. And especially that new Criterion. It's just really gorgeous.
Yeah, Criterion's really nice. Anybody got any Night of the Living Dead collectibles? The only thing I have are these posters that are up there. And then I don't really collect too many collectibles when it comes to horror. I save that for Star Wars. And unfortunately, the con I went to meet George Romero, he canceled and died like 2 weeks later. So yeah,
I got him to sign Dawn of the Dead, but yeah.
I remember when that happened. That was like 4 years ago almost.
It was 2017, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his table was still up and it was empty, and I was like, "Oh, what happened?" Oh, he canceled. I'm like, "Oh shit," because they said health. I was like, "I don't know."
what was it, like a week or two later?
It was like 2 weeks later he passed away, and maybe not even 2 weeks.
I remember when we talked about that.
Yeah, they had the four main actors from Dawn of the Dead, Ken Foray and Scott Reiniger, and what's the other one's name? And then the girl, I can't remember. God, I can't remember any of his names.
Galen Ross.
Galen Ross, yeah. Yep. Anytime I forget her name, I think of Dawn of the Dead when the guy is trying on the shoes because her name's right there in the shoes.
That was a cool little nod. And
yeah.
The other thing we could talk about is the fact that they used pre-existing music on the movie, because the music is so like perfect for the film that the fact that it wasn't written for the film is pretty.
It wasn't?
Cool. It was all found library music. It was not
really
composed for the film. They bought it. It was free. It's been in other movies. It's been used in other movies because it was just one of those things where you can just go buy it and it's and it just fits so well. Yeah, David Emge.
Flyboy. I do have kind of a story where he was at Wizard World in St. Louis one year and nobody went to his table. Nobody was there. And I was too nervous to go up there. My wife kept telling me, go see him. I wish I would. I never did because before I started meeting celebrities, I got super. Jared knows how nervous I get. Right? You've seen it firsthand.
You're pretty chatty when you want to be.
I am, but like going to the initial shock of seeing Amanda Wyss and Lisa Wilcox there.
Yeah,
my face was fucking beat.
Okay, yeah.
Oh my god! Morgan looked at me. She's like, "You're really red right now." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sweating too." And I think I'm 185 beats per minute. My heart's going. Yeah, and that's how it was when I saw George. No, like it was a Comic-Con, and there were so many people there, but nobody was going to see him. They were all going to see fucking. I can't remember who the big draw was that year. Some anime guy.
My favorite. When I met George, it was at Wonderfest in Louisville around '98 or so, and I just remember. I think I've told the story where I was standing in line to meet him. He was only signing for a brief time, like one day or something, and so there was a line, probably 40 people waiting in line in this hotel. And Wonderfest is a small show. It's not a big show. It's like that collector show I talked about, like a modeling show. So it was about 40 people. And this girl who was staying in the hotel was drunk. She was drinking. She came up to me and she stood standing behind me. She goes, "What are we waiting in line for?" And I said, George Romero. I was real shy then. I was like, it's just George Romero. He's signing autographs. Like, who's George Romero? I said, well, he directed Night of the Living Dead. She goes, oh, I saw that movie. And she just kind of stayed. All right, I guess I'm going to meet George Romero. And she just sat there and talked to me the whole time. It's like, I don't know what to get him to sign. I don't have anything. I said, well, they may have something up there. But I still remember her. And then I got up there and I was just
awesome.
I wish I hadn't been so. It was one of my first shows, so I was shy, like you talked about. Now I can just go on and on. But then I was like, he was so nice. He was like, "Hey man, how's it going?" And I just get, and I had a little conversation, but it was nothing. And I didn't get a picture or anything, which I kind of regret it. And then he came back to Horror Hound. They did a Day of the Dead reunion. But they had all of them together. Like they had Nicotero and all this cast and George, and you kind of had to get in the line and just kind of go down the line. So to meet, you couldn't just like meet one. You had to get in the whole line, if I remember right, and meet all of them if you wanted. So I was wanting to meet Nicotero because I hadn't met him yet. I got to meet him at Wonderfest years later.
I've ever seen him at a con.
Nicotero would always cancel because once he got on Walking Dead, I mean, he was just unavailable. Like
he is nowhere to be found.
No, like when I met him, it was at Wonderfest, and that's because he goes to Wonderfest because Wonderfest is so low key and small that he can actually just walk around. That's how I met him. He was just walking around as a fan in the hotel in the hallway, and he had actually written me online to my email years earlier about art. So I said, "Hey, I'm Nate," and he's, "Oh yeah," and then I just done that Jaws cover for Horror Hound, and he's a huge Jaws fan, so he ended up buying the original art. But that was where I met him, was just kind of hanging out at Wonderfest.
Is that still going on?
Later. I don't think they had it last year because of COVID, but it's been around for 30 plus years. It's been, but I mean, it was there. That's the first thing I ever went to.
And see, that's the weirdest thing about somebody like Greg Nicotero. He could walk around most conventions, like smaller conventions, and nobody would know who the fuck he was.
Well, what I like what Sean says, the trick is to see your horror icons at Comic Cons because there's no lines. Just like I said about Romero, he's not wrong. I haven't had too big problems with at horror cons. The only one that there were two that Jared and I had problems with in what was that 2018 was Bruce Campbell and Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund.
Yeah, there's not a lot of horror fan. Like when I did C2E2 up in Chicago.
Oh, it's a great con.
I was like one of the only horror people there. Like I had my booth, and later on I went to a Q&A that Joe Lynch and Adam Green were doing about Holliston. Holliston had just premiered.
Yeah.
And I was listening to them, and after I went up and met them, I was talking to them, and I gave them some art, and we were kind of bullshitting, and they knew my artwork because I had done the cover for the issue that covered Chillerama and Horror Hound. And
Adam did a segment in Chillerama, didn't he?
Yeah, both of them did, I believe, and so but I just remember Adam was like, "Oh, you're Nate," and they're like, "We came to your booth." I'm like, "What?" And they go, "Yeah." He goes, "Because we were walking around the floor and we didn't see anything horror." And then he saw Michael Myers and went right to your booth. I was like, "Shit, where was it?" I think your wife was sitting there. We met him, so it's like, shit. Joe Lynch and Adam Green came to my booth, but like I said, there's not a lot. I remember walking around with Billy Tackett, who's another horror artist, and we were walking around the show and the artist alley. And, there's so many amazing artists in the world. You really start to really realize how trivial you are when you're around so much talent. And we're like, I just remember Billy looking around going, we are so lucky these guys aren't in horror because there's so many talented artists in comic books, in fantasy and all that. But yeah, I didn't do very well at C2E2 either. Again, because there's just not the audience there. But he's right. Like you can walk up right up to Bruce Campbell, who would have a never-ending line at a horror con, whereas Comic Con you may be able to see him within 30 minutes of getting in line.
Words to live by, right there. So anyway, I miss cons. I keep talking to my brother-in-law who works with me. We talk about cons constantly, about how he misses you mostly, Jared, by the way. You got to meet my brother-in-law, I think, last year, Nate, or 2 years, whatever year that was. Me and you were talking, and they were getting angry with me because me and you get to talking. We just go, and they're like, they just walked away. They left me 3 or 4 times. Because when I saw Vince Vince at his booth, I start talking to Vince, I turn around, where are those fuckers? Where'd they go? Then I get a text from Jared or Jake, hey, we left you.
That's the hard part about doing cons is you get caught up in, because I've done 60, 70 shows, so I know so many people there, and I feel guilty talking to anybody, but I also feel guilty not talking to somebody.
Yeah,
because I know them. I'm I walk by and I feel bad if I don't stop and talk, but I know if I stop, I might be there for half an hour.
Yeah.
And if my daughter, my wife's with me,
you're stationary though for the most part, so that's probably
when I'm at my booth, it's a lot better because I just sit there and they come over there, But I may take a little quick break, or I see them at the after party, or I see them in the morning before the crowd gets in there. That's what I would usually do. I would usually go on Saturday morning before the show opened, and some of my artist buddies or filmmaker buddies would be at their booth, just setting shit up. And I get to sit there and bullshit without anybody around, and we be able to talk.
One of my favorite moments from 2019 Horror Hound was we're sitting there talking, and your daughter is just getting pissed. She is so angry, and I'm like, "What's wrong with her?" She's like, "They're stealing his art." The booth next to where you were at.
Oh yeah,
your art printed out. She was pissed about that. I thought that was awesome. Those are my favorite things. She's
literally
She kept looking over there with an evil eye. I was like, oh man, she's gonna get him.
My daughter was so funny because she would do drawings and try to sell them, and she would like do a drawing and she put the price on it, like $5, draw it on the artwork and put it out there. And I think one of the last horror hound I worked, like she was the first sale because one of the staff members came over and bought it. And it was like a $5 on it. He wanted to talk her down. He said $3. She said it's $5. He gave $5. And one other thing that I remember was cute was we were at the booth and she would like go around and hand everybody my business card. Like as they were talking to me. And I remember the funniest one was like Cleve Hall, the guy who had his own show as a makeup artist.
Yeah.
He was talking to me because we ended up working on some project that never really happened with Brian Polito. And but she walked over to him as I was talking to him and handed him my business card and he took it from her and thanked her. It was just funny.
She's going to eventually be your publicist. Not just your biggest fan. She's going to be an artist. She's awesome. Seth had to step away for a minute just to let everybody know. Anyway, let's get back to Night of the Living Dead. We're running out of time.
Time is it?
What else do we need to cover here? I mean, this is a movie I feel like we could probably talk hours on, for sure.
I'll tell you one shot I love in the remake I was watching today is the part where the fat zombie comes falling over the stairs.
Yeah,
Patricia Tallman. It's beautifully shot and cut. It works so well.
It is, but I also like where he's up against the couch and she's trying to use the wood poker to get the hand over there. I thought that was a funny little thing to add.
It's a lot of cool. I mean, they did some really good stuff in the remake, like the misdirection of the guy in the opening where he's like, "I'm sorry," and he turns around. He turns around just at the right time, so your eye is going to him because he's turned around, which throws you off from that other zombie coming in. Just this great misdirection that Tom definitely knew well.
And he's got a bump on his head and some blood or something too. Yeah. Like because you think, and then the next guy, he's completely zombified already. Like he already looks like he's a zombie. I like the one zombie too. The second one you see, who's like shambling towards them, and she thinks he's okay. He's wearing a suit, looks nice, and the suit starts pulling down. You can see where he's been cut open.
Yeah, the autopsy scar. Yeah, the suit cut up the back, and
he's fucking fresh too.
Even the guy that gets like ran over by the truck, like Ben drives over him, and his body's all twisted up. And then the real skinny one that comes in and gets shot without it has squibs but no shirt on, which was a rarity. And oh man, it was the zombies look excellent in the remake.
Yeah,
they really do. And I do again. I love Patricia's, especially that scene where she leaves the house on her own at the end, and she's just kind of putting the gun. The zombies' faces walking by, and she runs to that one with the baby doll and just breaks down and has that "oh God" moment. Like after she kills it.
She had that moment, but Tony Todd had that great moment too when he kills the one that got crippled. And he didn't realize she was watching him. I watched that. I never really paid that much attention to that scene, but he thought he was alone in that moment. She's just standing on the porch watching him. I always wondered, like, for some reason in that scene with Patricia Tallman and the zombie with the baby doll, like, I felt like they went up to see her mom or whatever. For some reason, I was assumed that was her mom's zombie, and that's why she freaked out so much. But I don't know. It felt like she had a connection to it. That's why she freaked out at that one. Because she's
mother. She's holding the doll like a baby, like it's her baby. So it is a motherly thing. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it was her mom, but
I doubt it was. Like over my real, but my initial thoughts I remember I was like, is that her mom's zombie? Because I wonder how many, if any. I don't like. I guess these zombies are all like human. They didn't come out of the ground, so not like Return of the Living Dead, right? They were all changed after dying somewhere, and
that's one thing Romero was known for. They all had a station. Like you had the postman zombie, you had the nurse zombie. You had all these different specific roles of zombies, which I thought was an interesting take.
They have a history. There's a.
But everybody's got a character. Why was Patricia Tallman not in it? a bunch, not in a bunch of horror flicks after the success of that. I know she was, yeah. As far as I know she was in Army of Darkness as a stunt person. She played some of the skeletons in the big fight, or she might have played Evil Ash. Actually, I can't remember.
She was in Night Riders too.
Was she? Yeah, I don't know. That's a good. She was her performance in Night of the Living Dead.
I think that's what it is. It's basically she was in it because they knew her. She had worked with Romero and Tom and all that before. It's more one of those family member type things as opposed to.
Yeah, but man, her performance was really, really like where did she go? She could have been, maybe not a huge actress or whatever, but she did really well. I thought.
Just how it is. I mean, there's a world full of great actors who never. Like there's so many actors that we grew up watching and you never saw, and like you look and go, wow, I really only saw them in one or two. We were talking about Miguel Nunez last week. Like that guy was really good. He had really something special, and we could count on our hands how many times we saw him in movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Guy had talent. He had a good look. He had a great personality and presence. And
Friday 5 and Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, and it really is just the luck of the draw. It's not always about talent. It's not always about. It's just about timing and getting the right role. One role can change your whole life and your whole career. Like people would talk Robert Pattinson shouldn't have done Twilight. Well, that changed his life and put him on the map. Like he got other roles, but that's how it is. Like he went from being really an unknown to a huge star overnight, and that could have happened to any other young actor who had gotten that part. And that's
Robert Pattinson. He made a lot of money, and now he can do whatever he wants.
And now he can do whatever he wants. Yeah, there's like one of my favorite stories was
he's actually a decent fucking actor.
Yeah,
Jack Lemmon. Apparently had the lesson taught to him when he was after he'd done like Mr. Roberts and stuff like that. He was working on a film and he was a star and he had a real big ego. And one of the character actors on the set who he really admired and looked up to came over to him and pointed out to all the other like day players and theater people who were just supporting roles around catering. And he said, that guy over there has been doing this 30 years. He's a better actor than you. That lady over there has been doing this for 25 years. She's a better actress than you'll ever be. He goes, you got lucky that you got famous, you got to a big part, and you've got it. Don't take that for granted. Just remember, because he was being he was being really cocky and egotistical towards everybody on set. He was mistreating people, and this guy was putting him in his place. Look, you're just lucky that you got the starring role, but you're no better than anybody here. And from that moment, Jack Lemmon learned his lesson and apparently treated everybody on set after that equally in respect, because
I can't imagine him being an asshole. Like he's acting, I know, but like he always plays this character like he's such a kind of a lovable type of guy.
Fame can do those things. Like it's very easy to suddenly start believing your own press and believing your own bullshit and like listening to everybody telling you how amazing and awesome you are. It can be just as toxic as getting criticism and people telling you how shitty you are. If you don't learn. So it's really if you listen to anybody who's really successful, they tell you the first thing is stop reading it, stop listening, stop communicating, stop engaging. Just fucking put your head down and do your work. And that's really how you have to do it.
Hey, Seth, you look rough. If you need to go, man. Okay?
All right.
Yeah.
All right, I'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah, have a good one, man. Get better.
Thanks.
Rest, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Poor guy. He looks rough. Anyway. So is there anything we want to go over with Night of the Living Dead before we start wrapping up? I know there's a lot that we could have talked about because what are some of your favorite moments? Let's do that real fast.
What time is it real quick? 'Cause I got
you have 4 till.
4 till. Yeah, I probably gotta go.
You want to do? Let's do final thoughts then.
Okay.
And add your favorite moments. Final thoughts and favorite moment. You go first.
I think we covered all the favorite moments. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I do love the opening. It just has the music and the slow pace and moving in and all that. I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite moment. So I just, as an overall experience, Night of the Living Dead, I think is always going to work, is always going to hold up, should be considered one of the great horror films of all time. I think it should be considered the top 3 horror films of the 1960s with Rosemary's Baby and Psycho. And it's in many ways, it should be held up as a shining light of independent filmmaking, of independent filmmaking that was successful and effective and changed the world, because Night of the Living Dead was the movie that was the first midnight movie. It started that culture, that Texas Chainsaw Massacre and things like that. Like if it hadn't been for Night of the Living Dead, we may never, we wouldn't get The Last House on the Left and what Wes Craven and what Hooper and all them were doing in the wake of Night of the Living Dead. He was kind of the guy.
Fulci wouldn't have made his movies. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of people who owe their careers to George Romero.
Yeah,
and John Russo. John Russo probably didn't get enough credit as well.
I saw him at a Comic-Con once. It was so sad. I did talk to him though, because I felt so bad for him. I was like,
and all those guys, like even Russ. I mean, those guys were all intricate.
Yeah,
as part of that troupe. And it's like one of those rock bands where the lead singer gets all the attention, and George was George Romero was the Freddie Mercury of Queen. Like he needed his Brian May and he needed all these people, but and that's the other thing, is George kept it in house. He kept his family as often as he could, and that's one of the cool things about George, is that he always had that troupe, almost like a theater troupe. When he could. I mean, sometimes you work studios, they won't let you hire this person or use that person.
Right.
I gotta go. But
all right, Nate. Have a good one, man.
Yep. Bye.
All right, Jared, let's wrap this up. Nate's gonna drop his camera.
No.
So one of the main moments that got me in the original was obviously when Karen woke up and attacked her mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's when you realize that everything has hit the fan. You thought you could still protect the house, but obviously everybody in the basement, they're fucked too. Since we've been comparing and contrasting like the new one versus the remake, I'd like to think that the remake was Savini's and Greg Nicotero's fucking love letter basically to their movie dad.
Yeah.
It's their movie dad. I mean, Savini is, for what is worth, he's fucking, he's the man now. But Greg Nicotero in many ways has surpassed Savini just with all the stuff he's done just within the last 10 years. But Greg Nicotero didn't have anything to do with Night of the Living Dead. He was on Day of the Dead. So he's still like, I don't know. You have 2 huge fucking special effects artists that came from this family. I don't know. Like it's always going to live on just because of this one movie, this one idea that cost like what, $20,000 to do, $17,000 to do.
Mm. Something along those lines. Yeah. So real fast, I met John Russo at Wizard World in 2007 because I walked past his booth like 3 or 4 times and nobody was ever there, and I felt bad, and I went and talked to him, and I was like, I know who you are. He's like, you do? From what? And I told him, And he's like, oh, I appreciate you coming by. Nobody's come by to see me. And this was on Saturday afternoon. I'm like, oh man, I feel bad. And I talked to him for like a good half an hour about Night of the Living Dead and Return of the Living Dead a little bit. And I just felt bad because like I don't think anybody went and saw him on Sunday either, because I walked by him and I had to do one of those like I hope he doesn't see me things. Because I made eye contact with him a couple times and I didn't feel like I needed to go talk to him again. It was just sad. Is there anything else you want to say, Jared, before we cut off for the night?
Not sure. No, I don't think so.
I don't really have anything else to say either. I want to thank everybody for coming out and hanging out with us on our Night of the Living Dead night. Next week, we're doing Dawn of the Dead as Zombie Month continues to roll on for the Horror Syndicate Discourse. I don't know that we'll be comparing and contrasting Dawn of the Dead 04 and 78. They're very different.
Oof.
Yeah. Watch Feast for sure. It's pretty good. But they're very different movies in my opinion. And if not for Dawn of the Dead being on the title of the 2004 remake, it stand on its own as a really good zombie flick. It would get compared because it's in a mall, but where else would you go? The mall's got everything.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, I love Dawn of the Dead, both of them. I have the hold on.
Have a good night too, Alex, man. Thanks for watching with us.
I have this, and it's got all 3 cuts on it.
I have that one too.
He's saying I need to get I'm not going to get a region free. I got this, and this is good enough. It's got everything I need. It's got the 3 cuts, some great commentaries. Alex, thanks for hanging, man. Yeah, but actually, my favorite cut is probably the European cut, the Argento cut,
the zombie cut.
A little bit. I mean, I can if I can get on. The thing is, I don't go for region B stuff because I can't play it. I have one region B Blu-ray, and it's the German edition of Night of the Living Dead, the remake, which is like a media book thing. It's also number 735 out of 750, which you can't really read, but I know. And Mike Lombardo, our old guy, he used to do the he got the Dawn of the Dead set, the big set that recently just came out. It's just I have no way to watch that stuff right now, and I'm not going to go out of my way to get it. I'm cool with this. This still looks pretty good, and I have that original Blu-ray release of Dawn of the Dead. So I think I'm gonna watch all 3 versions before next week. I got this in 2004. Anyway, so hit the subscribe button, tell your friends about the Horror Syndicate, and I don't know tricks like this. I did not know that.
What?
Yeah. We'll have to save that comment here. Let's leave it there for a minute. Anyway, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends about us. I'm going to start doing more videos at the YouTube channel like I was doing before. I did bitch about that release and why we needed an American release, a Region A, a Region 1 release, whatever you want to call it, Region A, release of Dawn of the Dead in the whole set. So check that out, or check out my my Nightmare on Elm Street. Why we need a Nightmare on Elm Street Scream Factory set. We're getting close to 5,000 views on that video.
It's only with all the other ones they've done.
Yeah, I mean, well, they got 2 of the 3 big 3, so why not do the last one? Anyway, sorry that Seth had to duck out. He wasn't feeling so good. Nate had to go do something else, and I have to do the same. You guys have a great evening. Thanks again for joining us. All the comments, we love it. Come back for more on Tuesday with Dawn of the Dead. On Friday, Jared, I don't know if you're going to be interested, but I'm going to do a show here talking about some horror news if anything happens. We don't need a Leprechaun box set.
We already had a Black Leprechaun box set.
Oh, and then I got the bracket ready to go for the March Madness. It's going to be weird. It's 2 movies from every year from 1988 to 2019, and they're not like the top movies from that year. So, yeah, it's gonna be. I needed to figure something else out to do instead of the same old shit. So
we're not gonna do popular videos all of a sudden. Nice.
So have a great night, and we'll see you next Tuesday with the Horror Syndicate Discourse. Watch some horror movies tonight or this weekend, whatever you want to do. It's up to you.